Okay, today we are going to review how to add a custom food in Cronometer, especially if you have this label. It can be really easy. It can be challenging when you're doing whole real foods and trying to match up certain nutrients when you're really getting into these micronutrients. But especially in my case, when I'm asking clients to track what they're eating, what I'm really having them look at is their sugars right here. So let's go back to Cronometer. And clearly I'm not tracking my food right now, but I'm going to go to add food and I'm going to search for it. And nothing is coming up. Okay, so we know it hasn't been added before. Let's see, do I go to custom? No, those are my custom foods. So I'm going to exit out of that. And I'm actually going to go to, let's see, foods. And I want to go to custom foods. I'm going to add a food. Okay, so my new food is desserts RX, I think is the name of it, and cafe latte, no cheesecake jar. All right. Now, I will say one of the concerns I have with this is the obvious added processed sugars like monk fruit. This is really not something I typically would recommend my clients consume, but for this example, we're going to walk through it. So I've given it a name. I've put it in a category, which is not required. Let me be clear, that's not required, but I am putting it in there. And then I'm going to go down here and I'm going to look at servings. And when I look at servings, I'm going to go back over here and it says serving size, 1 jar, 108 grams. Okay, so I'm going to do 1 serving. You don't have to fill out the grams. See, it's just that. I'm going to say 1 jar. There we go. So nutrients in 1 jar. That's literally all I did was just click in there and change it. And we're not going to, I could put in grams. What the heck, we'll put in grams. That'll be good. Okay, 1 jar is 108 grams. Now I'm going to flip back over here. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit more so we can see this super clear. Okay, so we're going to start with energy or calories. Calories is 360. Calories from fat I don't think are on there. We're not going to track that anyway. The next thing we want to look at, and I actually go by this and just let me walk through the basic things. Okay, so we're going to look at carbs. What do we have for carbs? 24. So 24 carbs in this whole thing. Does it list any? It does list 3 grams of fiber. So there's my 3. Sugars, it's listing 7. So I'm going to put 7 in right there. It also happens to have sugar alcohols. It should also have added sugar. Their label is not technically compliant right now. That's another problem with this desserts. Oh, there's the RX. So we'll split out real quick. We'll go back up here and fix this, space that out. And then we're going to put in, I'm tangenting, but we're going to put in sugar alcohols. So sugar alcohols is 4. Okay, so far that looks right. 24 carbs, 3 grams of fiber, 7 grams of sugar, and 4 grams of sugar alcohol. Okay, next we're going to go down to fat. What do we have listed for fat? 29 grams. Okay, so 29 grams of fat. That's in there now. Saturated fat, 14. Saturated is right here, 14. And guys, I am doing this on a desktop. I do think it's much easier to do this on a desktop. If you don't know a cute little shortcut, I don't know if it works on Apple products, but on a Windows PC, all I'm doing is Alt-Tab to flip back and forth. You see that? Makes it super easy on a desktop. So sodium, 70. And honestly, for my clients, if they don't add sodium, that's not my biggest goal. Again, getting your sugars and your main macros, which are your total fat, total carbs, and proteins. That's the biggest thing I care about. But since sodium is listed here, I'm going to go ahead and add it and be super duper thorough. Okay, we already added all of this. And I know I'm shifting around. I said I was going to go by Cronometer, but instead I'm kind of bopping around a little bit. Again, the point is just to get it all in. So we know protein is 8 grams, and then that's really it. Those are the main things that a nutritionist is typically going to look for if they're asking you to track sugars. Now, there are additional things down here, so what the heck, let's go ahead and add them. Vitamin A is 0, vitamin C is 0, calcium is 2%. So I'm going to go over here to my minerals and I'm going to put in 2% right there, and it's going to repopulate. Iron, 15%. And do you see that? You can actually go in and just click on the iron and click on the percentage option. Vitamin D is up here, and that's going to be 6%. Keep in mind with these labels too, they're not necessarily going to label out like vitamin K right here. We don't know if this is K1 or K2. Now, I can tell you looking at the ingredients down here, it's definitely K1, which should not be confused with K2. All in all, this is, again, I can't say it enough. There are certain foods that I just don't recommend. Given the amount of sugar that is in this, particularly the agave nectar and the monk fruit specifically, monk fruit can cause a lot of issues for people. Everything from insomnia to headaches to dehydration to honestly either constipation or diarrhea as well. So that's one I really stay away from, just because we don't know how people are going to react to it. Okay, so we did calcium, we did iron, we stopped at vitamin D, right? There's vitamin D, so vitamin E is also 6%. We'll pop that in there. Let's see, vitamin K we just talked about. We're going to put that in as 15. And again, notice I'm using the percentages because that is what it's giving me. Thiamine. Thiamine is also your B1, so we're going to pop that in, but I need to go back and check what it is because I'm talking. There's 8% for that. Niacin is your B3, and that said 6, right? Is that what that said? Again, I shouldn't talk while I'm doing this. Niacin is 2, my mistake. So I'm just going to go back and correct it. Okay, there's 2%. And let's see, B6. Oh, one of my favorites, B6, although it's probably not in a form we really want it in, but that's okay. That is 6% correct. Folate, again, probably not the form we want it in, but that's okay. We're going to put that in there. B12, that's a 2, right? Let me double check myself. Let's see. And then B5 is our pantothenic acid. I think I said that right. You get into some of the more technical, I just call it B5. You get into some of the more technical names, and I'm not the best for pronunciations. Phosphorus is a mineral, so that's going to be down in the minerals section. We're going to do 20%. And again, let me remind you, if your nutritionist is asking you for macronutrients and sugars, all these percentages down here, you don't really need. Plus, on top of that, everything in this nutrition label is an estimate. And there are certain ingredients that legally, if it's under a certain percentage, they're not required to include. They are required to legally include added sugars, but again, that's a different story. And we definitely have some added sugars in here. So their current label, as provided based on this, is not up to date with FDA standards. Zinc is 15. Selenium is 10. We do love a good selenium. If you are needing selenium, Brazil nuts are a really good source. 1 to 2 Brazil nuts per day. Copper is 35%. 1 to 2 Brazil nuts per day gets you all the selenium you need. And then manganese, we have at 25%. Okay, so at this point, I have captured everything on here. If I really wanted to, I could throw in individual ingredients. I personally don't do that for food tracking. Just because, one, I mean, this is a very heavily processed food, so it's not something that I typically recommend. And two, I mean, you can definitely add ingredients in the notes right here, but that's really not what we're looking at when we're using a tool like Cronometer. I'm going to look at this. That should all be good. I'm going to say it's an American label. And see, it's already got all the label filled out. This is what the label should look like. I'm going to hit Save Changes. And I believe there's an option to publish food. And I don't have a barcode, I don't think. No barcode. Package front. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm going to see if it'll let me submit. No. I don't have a barcode. Okay, unfortunately, I don't think I'll be able to publish it because I don't have a barcode. However, What I can do is try and export this since this is for a particular client. But that's basically it. It's added. It's now in my custom food. So if I go back to my diary and I want to add a food, I'm just going to look for desserts RX, and it's right there. Add. I had 1 jar, and my macros were all right there. Again, a lot of the stuff you don't even necessarily need to add if everything you're looking at is related to macronutrients and sugars. As long as the sugars right here are in there, that's what we want to see. Alrighty, hopefully that's helpful. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments.